Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a simulation of an x-ray for my sick alligator today. So usually we do the GIContrast studies for chronic vomiting diarrhea not resolving with medication, anorexia, lethargy, not eating, concern for an abdominal mass or some other sort of foreign body, some sort of torsion or lesions. There's a lot of different things from the anatomy of the wall that we can see by doing this study. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my barium. So I have liquid Easy Pack as my barium sulfate suspension here. I have my other instruments that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and put my equipment, my PPE on so that I will be fully protected, because we want to take that x-ray as soon as the solution is administered, because it reaches the stomach immediately, and then about 15 minutes later it will reach the duodenum. Half an hour after that we'll hit into the jejunum. It'll take another hour, 2 hours to reach the small intestine, the beginning of the cecum, and then by 4 hours it will have fully penetrated the small and large intestine. So I'm going to go ahead and move my dosimetry badge up to the thyroid shield. Top here, I have my roll of tape that we're going to use as a stopper for the mouth. So to go ahead and prop the mouth open. Okay, so now we wouldn't want to do this type of study if we knew the pet was sick, had potential bleeding lesions, if there was concern for torsion, which I said you would do a study for, but you definitely would not, because it could make it worse. The barium itself doesn't have much side effect to the patient, but those are some situations in which case you wouldn't want to complete this study and further irritate the system. So I'm going to go ahead and take my red rubber tube. I'm going to lay it against the patient so I can see about how far I want to put it. So I'm going to approximate or go to the end of the rib cage. So we want it to be about that far in the mouth. Make sure we get all the way in there. And then I'll take my lubricating jelly, the lube, go ahead and lubricate the tube about all the way in so that there's no discomfort to the patient or irritation, anything like that. I'm going to prop up the head and slowly feed it in. Make sure it goes into the esophagus, which I can confirm by palpating it. It's got a little bit of extra padding here, but I can feel the tube is in the esophagus. If the patient wasn't anesthetized, you could give a little bit of water, just a tiny drop of water. If they coughed, you would know it was in the trachea, not the esophagus. Or you could try adding a little bit of air and taking an x-ray and seeing if there was air in the stomach or not. So now that the tube is in, I can see it's up to my Sharpie mark. I'm going to go ahead and give about 20 mLs of the barium sulfate. It has a tendency to separate, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure and shake it really well. Just open it up. Syringe here. To get a paper towel, a little messier than I expected. So the sulfate. So before administering the barium, I'm going to go ahead and take a scout x-ray. So this is to ensure that we have proper placement of the tube, and to see what the intestine looks like before we actually go ahead and administer the barium. So I'm going to take measurements. We're going to do a DV, which is the position he is currently in. Actually, go ahead and start with a VD. This is typically how you would take the x-ray. You want to do both a VD and a lateral every time you image. So the patient lying down at the thickest point of the abdomen, we are at 10 centimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my chart here. So for the abdomen, 10 centimeters, we want 5 MAs and 66 kbp. So, all right, we've got 5 MAs and 66 kbp. So I'm going to go ahead, clear off the x-ray table. I have my machine, went to sleep while waiting, so I'm going to just wake it up before I take that x-ray. I have my marker here, so I want to go ahead and collimate the view. So make sure I have a nice central. We use digital radiology here. We have a cross beam in the middle to make sure we are centered on the right part of the body. So I'm going to include most of the abdomen and then tighten it in almost all the way. I have my left and right marker here, so I'm going to place it on the right hand side, which would be his right of the abdomen. And then I'm going to step out of the view and take the x-ray. Okay, so I look. I can see that the tube is placed nicely. It's got good position there. So I'm now going to go ahead and administer the barium. And check my watch, so I know exactly what time it is. So about 4:35. Go ahead, twist it in here, and start the administration. It's a little slow flowing. If I had cooled the barium, it would have slowed it a little bit more in terms of being absorbed into the body. Kind of prop the head up a little bit. So I'm going to kind of stuff the end so any remainder doesn't come flying back out. And the barium is going to provide a positive contrast, so it'll show us the anatomy of the stomach better and show up white on the x-ray. So, alright, I'll go ahead, check view. I'm going to take the first almost immediate administration view, the VD. All right. Okay, so I can see it start to infiltrate the stomach. And I'm going to go ahead and take a lateral as well. We had taken a still photograph earlier of the patient before deciding to do the GI study, and so he is on his left, so I'm going to flip the marker around. I recollimated a little bit better since he's much narrower on this side, and I'm going to change these settings. So we were at, I'm going to remeasure, let's see here, 15 centimeters. Which, according to my chart, moves it up to 76 kbp. to go ahead and take that VD view now, or lateral view as well. Okay. And so now I'm going to give it about 15 minutes before I take the next, or before I would take the next set of views, just to make sure that the barium has time to infiltrate into the duodenum and then continue down the body. Every time we take x-rays, we want to take both the lateral and a VD, just to make sure we have full, because it's a 3D view, you always want to take 2 images, and make sure it's marked appropriately so we know what is where. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and take the next set of x-rays, just to make sure that everything is flowing smoothly and get a better view of the barium that's infiltrated into the duodenum. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the tubing because that could create artifact. And then I'm going to go ahead and I can remove that gag as well. So I'm my markers on the right side and take that other view. Okay, so I'll go ahead and continue it. So I actually waited 2 hours to give it enough time to fully absorb into the body. I'm going to go ahead and take my last set of x-rays. So I have my collimation. I realized I wasn't talking through the landmarks, so I'm going to go come up a little bit so I'm more at the middle of the thorax, and then all the way down up to the beginning of the pelvis. Should be about, yeah, there. At my left lateral marker, I want to make sure I can see the entire abdomen from the base of the lungs all the way, like I mentioned, to the top of the pelvis. So I have that set up here nicely. Lungs are extended cranially and caudally. DB2. I'm going to go ahead and take one more shot.
Yeah.
I would like to train up here. I need a example I end it or with it. No, please don't end it. I haven't had. I've been nonstop with people in front of me and the phone.
Okay, so I can see it's continued to follow through. I'm going to go ahead and show these to the doctor.